We recognize that a second Trump administration is filled with many unknowns. With just a few months before that begins, we wanted to provide you with the best possible information so you are prepared for whatever comes. Some of you have questions about what will happen to women, what will happen to same-sex marriages, what will happen to low-income people, what will mass deportation look like? Well, tonight we have someone here to answer some of those questions. And joining me now is our good friend, former U.S. Attorney Joyce Vance, professor at the University of Alabama School of Law, MSNBC legal analyst, and professional talker downer of joy. You normally are the person I bring on to just talk me down. So I'm going to have you go through this because a lot of people are very worried. So I want to go through some of the things that Trump is saying he plans to do. He's saying he plans to defund anything with DEI in it, any city or police department that refuses to cooperate with mass arrests and deportations, any public schools that don't follow his patriotic mandates, any schools that recognize transgender students. So he would be using the power. He doesn't have the power of the purse. That's what the House of Representatives. Can he simply defund all of those things on his own?
Yeah, so I think we have to start by saying Trump has a very aggressive, very broad agenda. And like everyone who goes into government, he will meet the reality that you can only do a limited number of things. If everything is a priority, then you have no priorities. So at some point, even Donald Trump will be forced to pick. And then in this specific area that you're talking about, using essentially withholding federal funding, you know, Donald Trump tried that before. He has threatened that in the past. He threatened, for instance, the mayor of the city of Seattle with pulling federal funds during the Black Lives Matter marches and during that era, and met with very mixed success, frankly, because state and local officials, among all of us, are perhaps the most well-positioned to push back. But if Trump sets a top priority and decides he's going to pull funding, say for public institutions or for more likely private institutions that continue with DEI, then he can probably push that forward with some level of success. There will, however, be court challenges, and increasingly we see great signs that the lawyers are well prepared and gearing up to be the heroes again.
Let's talk about the states. Donald Trump has promised to do mass deportation, but he's got to get these people from somewhere. And states like California are saying they're going to protect, Maryland are saying they're going to protect people. How much can a governor like Gavin Newsom actually protect their residents?
A lot. So I've lived through this, Joy. In 2011, Alabama passed what it billed as a Deport Yourself law, HB 56, that criminalized all sorts of previously legal behavior by people who were here without status and American citizens who wanted to help them. And that was a real shot across the bow. But in reality, if you had a sheriff in a county who didn't want to call federal agents when they encountered people who couldn't prove their citizenship status, then it was very difficult for the federal government to engage. And even with willing officials, again, it's a question of resources. How many people can you detain? How quickly can courts process them? You know, there's been some suggestion, it's included in Project 2025, that Trump would bring the military to bear to assist at the border. Well, that's something that has real legal dimensions to it. And although I know we live in an era where many people have lost confidence in the courts, this is again something that the lawyers will take to court. And unless we really abandon all principle, this inappropriate deployment of American troops on U.S. soil is something that should still be contested successfully in court.
Since Donald Trump will likely have control of the House as well as the Senate, his party, could they make it illegal for women to cross state lines to get an abortion?
So, look, I think this is a tough one. I think that women need to be fully prepared for worst-case scenarios to surface, whether that's done strictly on a state-by-state level, which is what the Supreme Court authorized in Dobbs, or whether we see something national, something darker. We could see enforcement of the Comstock Act, which prohibits mailing any material that focuses on family planning. So that's much broader than just tools and drugs that are used for abortion. That could extend to birth control and other measures. And there are clearly forces in American society that believe this is a desirable result. This is an important time for American women to consider their options, including this risk. You know, this is an issue that hasn't come up to the Supreme Court in this posture, right? Can you limit people from crossing state lines? This court will have the opportunity to decide that issue.
Don't go anywhere. Joyce is going to stick with us because we're going to discuss on the other side of the break Trump's latest legal issues. Stay right there.